And even more than that is the emotional and the spiritual healing from walking maiden to mother. Because also in our society, even when we are bringing the focus, it's so medicalized and it's so cut off from the emotional, spiritual realms, right? And what I was seeing is no, it's all one. You can't just focus even on postpartum healing if we're not doing the inner work.
Welcome to the Healing Cocoon. I'm Jacoby Gray, soul alignment and success coach and energy healer, which means I can intuit the subtle layers of your energy field to promote ultimate health and well-being. My goal for this podcast is to shed light on the healing journey itself and help you feel more supported as you embark on the process of unpacking your past to consciously create your present and start living the life of your dreams. Through the study of coaching, kinesiology, holographic kinetics, meditation, Reiki, the chakra system, and many other modalities, I've learned how to release the blocks that were holding me back. Now I'd love to help you do the same. By embarking on your own self-healing process, you'll see the world transforming around you in ways you never thought possible. You'll begin to experience more connection, clarity, love, fulfillment, synchronicity, and success than you've ever had before. So welcome to the Ascension. Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome back to the Healing Cocoon podcast for another week. Today we're speaking with McLean McGown, who I met in Nashville at a new moon circle she dropped into while she was in town. And I loved her bright, sparkly energy immediately. And I find her so welcoming and relatable, and this joyful energy infuses everything that she does. McLean is a motherhood coach, host of her own podcast called Mother the Mother, a prenatal and postnatal healing expert, postpartum doula, nutritionist, hypnotherapist, Pilates, yoga, and meditation teacher, Lactation Educator Counselor, frequency healer, death doula, Reiki practitioner, wife, and most importantly, mother herself of 2 daughters living in Los Angeles. After the birth of her first daughter, McLean quickly realized that there was a great need for women to be supported on a deeper level, not only through pregnancy and birth, but especially during the postpartum shift. Through her own postpartum journey with little support, McLean made it her mission to show up for other women as a kind of loving support that she wished that she'd had. And becoming a postpartum doula has led her to her truest passion, coaching and educating women as they transition from maiden to mother and beyond. And as someone who is yet to have children, I still have an intense fascination with the journey of motherhood, and I really enjoyed this illuminating chat with McLean about her own healing journey and the establishment of her company, Mother the Mother.
For any of you mothers out there listening, and for non-mothers also, this is a really important thing that I don't feel like it's talked about. So I'll just start here, is that when you become a mother, when you birth a child, when you become a vessel to bring life forward and through you physically, there's something that happens when your child reaches the age of your trauma. Your subconscious mind, more often than not, brings it forward for you to heal. And I know this, and I still forgot this. and I have 2 daughters. My big traumas, right? We have little big traumas. Trauma resonates with all of us very differently. We all have our own experience, relationship to that word even. When I look at my childhood and my life, my biggest 2 traumas with a capital T are at 5 and at 11. Both of my daughters are 5 and 11.
Whoa. So
the timing of that, for me to even have spaced my children at that, I didn't even know I was going to have a second kid. And this all has just transpired. My little one turned 5 September 3rd. My older one turned 11 October 2nd. And I had a huge, crisis, breakthrough, breakdown, whatever, on like October 4th, because my subconscious knew that there was stuff that really had to finally come out and up to be healed. And last week I turned 45. So just knowing that healing is always a journey, right? And really there are times and places and spaces. But in general, I would say, you know, my work as a postpartum doula for the past decade, and now as a motherhood coach for many years, and now I'm even getting into business mentoring, because even money is such a big piece of this for women in healing, and how we're relating to abundance and wealth and prosperity in general. You know, really changing the paradigm from the patriarchal to the more matriarchal or divine feminine ways of earning, receiving, right? The self-worth. Like, it's so in the collective right now. So there's abundance of healing in all levels. But really what brought me onto this path in my career and as a mother was when I became a mother. And I was a meditation teacher, yoga teacher, nutritionist, Pilates teacher. I've done a lot of different things. I was a dancer growing up, rode horses. I grew up in Tennessee. And I became a postpartum doula after the birth of my first daughter, because I realized all the classes, the money for classes, the baby shower, buying the fancy stroller, all of these things was like one tiny, tiny, tiny piece of this puzzle. And then you're on the other side when the real work happens, the postpartum time, when baby is earth side, that it was like crickets. And I'm even in LA, which is like a mecca, right, for this kind of work. And there was like this was 10 years ago again, 11 years ago now. But I'd heard this, you know, Sikh woman who was a postpartum doula. I didn't know how to reach her. I didn't even know what that really meant. But it was like a dharmic call where I was just like, okay, that's what I am clearly meant to be doing, because women are not prepared. We all think we're failing because we're in our own little, you know, cookie cutter boxes, houses, thinking we're failing, and we're not. It's just we're never meant to do this alone, and we don't have the real guidance. And so my whole thing was like, I'm just going to tell the honest truth about what this is so that we can normalize it. You know, it's all based in biology. It's based in what actually happens after you give birth. It doesn't have to be scary if we know what it is. Like, I did not know that I'd be wearing a diaper for a couple of weeks. You know, now that's like a normal thing, right? It's like,
wow. I mean,
but I did not know that.
I haven't had babies yet, and that's certainly something I did not know.
Yeah, it's an image. It's an image. Yeah. And so, yeah, I just wanted to be like the older sister that could share these, you know, these wisdoms so we don't think we're failing. And, you know, for the better part of a decade, that's what I was doing in women's home. Of like, this is normal. This is all normal. This is nothing to be feared. This is nothing to be scared. And really holding the container in the space for her physical healing. And even more than that is the emotional and the spiritual healing from walking maiden to mother. Because also in our society, even when we are bringing the focus, it's so medicalized and it's so cut off from the emotional, spiritual realms, right? And what I was seeing is, no, it's all one. You can't just focus even on postpartum healing if we're not doing the inner work. And so that's what really got me on the path. And then over the years, I'd have clients coming back like, oh, I want to have another baby just so I can work with you. I was like, we don't have to do that. Like, let's do coaching and let me help you now that you're like mom 2.0, mom 3.0, because we're always evolving and we're always changing. And thank God we are. That's what we're here in Earth School to be doing. So really holding the container, and in so doing, as many of us that are healers, caretakers, givers, is we're usually drawn to the thing to heal ourselves, right? Like, you even doing this podcast is for you to bring healing, you know, to the masses and also to yourself. And certainly that's what I was doing as a doula. Certainly the name of my business, Mother the Mother, is to help heal my own mother wound and my own connection to my own mom and to my grandmothers, my great-grandmothers, my matriarchal line, and really showing up for my kids. And, you know, kids are some of the biggest gurus or spiritual teachers that we'll ever have. And I always say, like, the fertility journey sometimes is the biggest spiritual awakening for some people. Sometimes pregnancy is. It's the first time we are forced to slow down. We think we're going to power through. We cannot power through. We are humbled. We have to surrender. Sometimes it's in the postpartum realm, sometimes a year or two later. But you don't get through this massive spiritual journey of motherhood without massive breakthroughs, breakdowns, and healing. And that's what it's there for also. I think there's this thing of like, it's almost like now on one hand, we have so much information, which is really great, but at the same time, people almost feel like they're going to be able, with all this knowledge, to just get to the other side without any growth and pain. And that's a delusion. And, you know, if you're not wanting to go through this, if you're not really wanting to grow in this way, and I'm not saying you have to have kids to do this either. I'm just saying if motherhood is something you want, you feel very called to, just know that it's going to crack you open. So that's what it's been for me. And it has been a major blessing. So now what I'm really noticing is my inner child.
Oh,
and so
wow,
really,
how beautiful.
Yeah. And that's what is the healing piece for me. And it's like, of course, duh. And it's blowing my mind that at 45, I'm like, oh yeah, it's actually time to do the inner child work that I've never really done.
Okay, so you were, prior to giving birth, you were on the path. You were a yoga teacher and you were a meditation teacher. Had you done a lot of introspection and dealt with your capital T traumas at the age of 5 and 11 in any way? Or had you kind of touched on those previously?
Yeah, I definitely had, but I just don't think, I think I didn't know what that really meant. And now that I have 2 daughters that are literally reflecting back to me those ages and how precious I was at those ages, as we all are, that is giving me really an opportunity. So now when I go to bed, and I still sleep with both my daughters next to me, I'm actually able to hold little McLean. And I actually pull her in. I pull her in with all of us. And it's so beautiful because, you know, as I'm sure many of our stories, it's like I grew up I was an only child of my parents. So I was a very solo child. And so I was having to just figure it out in my own mind. And so, you know, that showed up for me with perfectionism, never really needing to have needs, being, you know, picture perfect, straight A's, never getting in trouble, people pleaser, all of these things that really created some walls of safety for me. And then I would rebel against them in some ways, just due to my familial tree and, you know, traumas and habits that I didn't want to be a part of. I didn't drink. I didn't use drugs. I was very straight edge because I saw the perils of that, but it also turned out a lot of anger and resentment that turned into eating disorders. Control, being very controlled about my own safety container because I didn't feel it around me growing up. And I hold such a different container for my children. So I had done work. I'd done a lot of work. I mean, ever since I was very young, I was very drawn to religions, drawn to spirituality. It's been a big thread through my life. But I also think with that can come, or how it showed up for me was bypassing a lot. Like, oh, my parents did the best they could with what they were dealt, which is true. All this is true. But I also didn't really give myself the space and time to like be angry, be resentful, you know, have my own process, ask for space, all of those things. And now it's uncomfortable, but I'm having to do it because what showed up a month ago was all of those things and those tamping it down, meditating through it, just concentrating on empathy, all of those things, which are beautiful practices. I was spiritually bypassing a huge chunk. And so now it's like really ready to face them because my body could not hold them anymore. It's like, it was literally like the kettle was blaring on the stove and I could not contain it anymore. So yeah.
So what does that look like then? Is that having the breakdown that you weren't able to have at those ages? Is that falling apart? Is that experiencing the anger and the grief and the it's not fair kind of feeling? Is that exactly what it is?
Yeah. So I think, yes, I cannot fully break down, and maybe I don't even need to because I'm mothering 2 children and I'm very busy every day, all day. But what it has allowed me to is to ask for space from family, which felt very uncomfortable. But I was able to be calm enough where I could say, I don't know what's happening, but whatever was mechanisms I was using to kind of get Band-Aid it, it isn't working anymore for me, and I love you, and I don't know what this is, and I'm actively trying to figure out how to heal it. And until then, I don't want to be mean, so I'm asking for space. And I've never had that space from this person, so it's very awkward and uncomfortable. And I know that person's hurting, but it's the best thing because I need to have space to process this. And I've had one session with kind of a spiritual therapist. Talk therapy I've done in the past. It's helped more for me in marriage than just me. Just pure talk therapy hasn't really been that effective for me. So I'm going to be working with, she's traveling this week, but next week we're going to really delve into inner child work and some karmic work, and really going deep with my inner child and deep in meditation and healing that wound, that I can actually go back and retrieve her, and that she doesn't have to do the rest alone.
Yeah. So you're going to clear the energies around it that caused her to create those mechanisms and those walls and that need for control, and allow her to just be present in the world as a living, breathing, existing kind of like membrane, which is scary, isn't it? Being vulnerable, like energetically vulnerable, is scary.
Yeah. It is scary. And for me, I think our bodies are just amazing. Like, can we just say that? Like, our bodies are literally geniuses, that the fact that my daughter's just turned that age and my subconscious was like, this is literally the time to do this. This is literally the opening, right? And so I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, I mean, it's very humbling to not have answers, because I'm really in a space where I'm in a void. It's like, I don't have the answers right now. To be vulnerable with my husband and like talking through these things with him, and being like, I need a little bit more tender care and space too. And then like my daughters, I'm not like oversharing anything with them, but one thing I really have found with mothering and children in general, which I did not have, is whatever you don't tell them, they will create in their own minds. So we often think we're protecting them, and we're not. We're so scared of scaring them. But if you actually come at children and you do your work before, and obviously age appropriate, like, of course, but if you come with a very neutral energy and very honest energy, they more often than not receive it so beautifully and so well. And then, I'm very honest with my children. I'm like, wow, I'm sorry. Like I did not mean to use my voice that way, or I'm just feeling really tender today. Mommy needs a little extra, quiet or care. And they have those days too. And so it also gives them the opportunity to know that it's okay when they have those feelings. It's kind of this like interesting, it's all one, right? Because when we heal, we also heal the past and we heal the future in the present.
Exactly.
And so I feel like it's actually cleaning up stuff, my own line, and then it's going to clear up stuff for them too.
I'm going to jump in here for a sec to talk to you about my all-time favorite skincare product, Osea's Sea Serum. Because when I first discovered the benefits of hyaluronic acid a few years ago, I fell madly in love with it, and I went on a hunt to find the perfect formula. Most of them, although they worked, they left my face with a kind of tacky, sticky feeling that turned into a big shiny mess after I put on moisturizer and foundation. But then I stumbled across Osea's Sea Serum, and I couldn't believe how easily it settled into my skin without making me look like a disco ball by the end of the day. Osea's newly upgraded formula contains 2 powerful types of hyaluronic acid, plus Japanese miru seaweed, which replenishes and balances the skin's natural moisture level, volcanic marine ferment to plump and smooth out those fine lines, and snow mushroom to form a hydration layer on the skin which seals in all the moisture. And not only that, and this is the reason I'm so happy to stand behind this company, Osea is also vegan, cruelty-free, climate neutral, and they've just become ocean positive, which for me, being an Aussie growing up in the ocean, is a truly meaningful, high-integrity company ethos that I'm excited to support. So if you would like to try this awesome hyaluronic sea serum and support a certified ethical company in the process, you can use my discount code UA10, so that's Urban Ascension 10, UA10, to receive 10% off when you go to OSEA's website, and that's spelt OSEA. It'll change your life. Well, your skin's life anyway. It certainly did mine.
But like general tools of healing, like I said, I've always been, I started yoga when I was 15 in Nashville. Actually, there was one Iyengar yoga studio, and I used to go with 40 and 50-year-olds. And I would say I was vegan and vegetarian for a lot of my life, postpartum. Well, really in the past couple of years, I've come back until I'm taking liver supplements, doing bone broth, eating more animal. I do raw milk. I don't love eating animals, but that's been a big part of healing. Like our bodies are very different too after we have children. And that I rebelled against a very long time. But we're all different. I really don't think there's one way for anyone to do anything anymore. I used to be much more rigid in my thinking. I really don't. I don't think there's one health food for anybody. I don't think there's one bad food for anybody. I mean, canola oil, but we're so,
slip that in there.
Yeah, just slip that in there. But sugar, cane sugar. But we're all so unique. And I think that also comes with age, right? And trying a lot of different things. And you could be so down a path and then it stops working for you. And a lot of things work for you, quote unquote, I use quotation marks, when you're young, because we do bounce back from everything, It's like on Instagram when I'm watching everyone drinking huge smoothies and smoothie bowls and you're 19, it's like, okay, great. But what's happening when you're 50? That drinking cold all the time probably isn't going to be the greatest thing for you, right? And so there's just different wisdom that comes with age too. But I have had a very healthy lifestyle. Yoga, meditation have always been central parts of my life. Walking is a huge place for my heart and soul. We live right near a national park, so I try to just loop in there even for a 10-minute walk when I every day. I think healing looks like so many different things at different parts of our lives, which is what's so fascinating.
It is. And so that respect that you have now for the body, I mean, you were saying how brilliant and wonderful our bodies are just because our unconscious can go, okay, you're at a certain age and it's time for you to bring this up. But also having a baby and going through that physical process and having such a reverence for your body afterwards and the process itself that it caused you to create an entire career out of it. Would you say that there was a huge healing there for you in terms of that control and those eating disorders and how you regulated your own body and felt about your image after that?
Yes, that's such a great question. And I honestly have to say at 45, I feel so comfortable in my body and my being and more confident than I ever have in my life. And I think we're changing that. One of my spiritual teachers who I love is stunning and gorgeous and hot, and she's 60. And it's we're changing what used to be what, right? So my first pregnancy, first pregnancies are a real illumination because it's so shocking. We have no preparation. Everything is so theoretical when it comes to childbearing until you're in it. And I was in a big green juice phase at that time in my life. I was 32 and, liter of green juice every day. I'd been for a couple of years, heavily raw vegan for a while. And I was I'll be hiking every day and drinking my liter of green juice every day pregnant. Well, I was brutally sick for 7 months of that pregnancy. So I was not hiking. I was not drinking green juice. I could barely eat, actually, my entire first trimester. I would literally lie in bed looking at to-go menus because I was so starving, but I couldn't eat. It was horrible.
Wow.
Then at 7 months, I know, and that's a whole other, I could do a whole podcast on that. There are probably lots of reasons for it, but it really humbled me. And it was the first time that it wasn't just my grit and my grind that was getting me through it with my body. It's I had to surrender. And that was my lesson. So it was a lot of time in a dark room meditating and reading some, but when you're so nauseated, it's you don't even want to watch television, it's too much.
You can't do anything.
So you can't do anything. So it was just really a lot of time with myself, which was actually really beautiful because I was so connected to my baby, my daughter Jemima, that I just felt like it was almost like we were on another planet together. And my birth went differently than I wanted. Just nutshell, it happened very quickly for a first baby. I was 10 centimeters dilated, like fully ready to go. And then I was with midwives, and then they broke my water and it was full of the meconium, which is when the baby releases poop or waste into the amniotic fluid. And, had they not done that, I could have birthed, who knows, very quickly, and it could have been a great birth center birth. But when that happened, we transferred to the hospital, and that kind of started a whole cascade. And so that was a big thing that I had to heal through. I was so happy to have her, but it took me like maybe a year and a half to actually have the space and time to process it. I would have done things a lot differently, but we don't know these things until we know them. And I do think a lot of times we do have to have certain lessons as we step into motherhood. It's tricky though, because I don't like just to slap like a cute little sticker of like everything happens for a reason, because the whole medicalized system, there's a lot of trauma in there and there's a lot of misconduct. So it's both and. It did teach me how to speak up for myself a lot more. And I had regrets, but I also knew it was part of me learning to really trust my own body and know myself and not give an F what anyone else says or thinks. Welcome to motherhood. and that prepared me for a lot of other conversations. And then with my second, which was almost a month shy of 6 years that I had my second. And I was 2 months shy of turning 40. And I was like, I'm going for my home birth. I'm going for the team I want. I'm going for it. If it ends up differently, I'll deal with it. But I am all in. I'm all in. I'm doing the work. And I had the home birth I wanted. And it literally healed this loop. It healed my whole first situation. And I call her my little healer because she did that for me, and I had no idea that really was possible. And it still was fucking hard. It was so hard. Like even in the labor, I was like, I couldn't even talk or even open my eyes, but I was thinking, why did I do this? Why did I want a home birth? This is insane. Why didn't I schedule a C-section? Like all the things. But it was magical, and it was exactly what I wanted. It was so great. My healing was so easy. It was great. So yeah. And after that, I was like, oh my God, like I did that. Like it was, and again, everyone has a different thing and a different birth, and there's no right or wrong. But for me to have done that, which is something I'd so wanted, that was so physical, I was like, no one can ever take that away from me. Like no matter what happens in my life, this is a badge of honor that I'm giving to myself. Like it was that profound for me.
That's so cool.
And it's amazing. It's like, it's crazy. I still don't understand it. We grow a baby, we birth the baby, we create food for the baby. Like it's wild. It's total magic.
Yeah. And did you have a doula at that home birth, and were you already a doula at that stage?
Yes. So I was a postpartum doula. I'm trained as a birth doula, but I'm the postpartum person. It's a very different energy. Some people do both, but it's a very, like, birth doulas are generally like adrenaline junkies. It's like you love it. Like you're there for the sprint. You're like, go big or go home. And postpartum doulas were more like, we're going to be calm and quiet, and it's going to be on a schedule, and I'm going to come and do the massage on you. And it's just a different energy. I had a doula. I had the midwife I really wanted with my second. But even the second time around, my husband called my friend who's doula, because like all my friends were doulas by then.
Oh, can I just interject?
Yeah.
What is a doula? Just for anybody who's listening, and this is a completely new term.
Great. I'm glad you said that. So doula means in Greek in service to women. So really we're all doulas. It's a term that became popular in the past couple of decades in the birth realm. So a lot of times when you'd hear the word doula, that meant birth doula. It was a person that's holding space. They're physically with the birthing mom. Also with helping the partner out, because first time partners, whether male or female, certainly with dads that are male that have maybe never even been around babies, been around a birth, they need support also. The doula really focuses on the waist up for the mom, where the doctor or the midwife focuses on the waist down, getting baby out. They're not there rubbing your shoulders. They're not helping you breathe. They're not, helping you through the ring of fire and transition. That's really the doula's job. And it makes generally births, it helps you generally night and day, especially for first-time moms. We really don't know what we're doing, and also we innately know what we're doing, but mentally we're so in our heads about everything that a doula can really be helpful. The second time around, I didn't even know if I wanted someone, but my husband ended up calling one of my good girlfriends, and I'm so glad she was there. I go so inward that I didn't even open my eyes till the baby came out.
Oh, wow.
And I looked at her and I was like, hi.
And how many hours were you kind of in that internal process?
Probably 2.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And with Goldy, my second one, Goldy Wolf, it was a very long early labor, which is more rare for the second time around, meaning there were contractions. It was happening. It would rev up, slow down, rev up. I went and walked 3 miles. I walked to the chiropractor. I could eat. I could take a bath. I could kind of rest. But then it really ramped up, and then it was, basically active labor till baby born, like 3 hours.
Wow. And that was a really beautiful healing process for you, naturally, in like a birth tub or a bath?
I was at my house. I was in our apartment, and for a lot of the time, I was in the pool, a warm pool. And then, this is kind of fascinating, a little factoid, because I didn't know about this, but when the baby moves through the pelvic girdle and down into the birth canal, there can sometimes be a nerve that's pushed, which basically from your bum crack up to your low back, there's like a purple line because a nerve is being pressed. So I'd never heard of that. But I was in the pool, and I guess they put the mirror under me and could see it. And so they said, okay, you need to go to the bathroom. And I was like, what are you talking about? I can't go to the bathroom. I can't move. They wanted me to crawl to the toilet. They wanted me to crawl so the baby could move down through my pelvis more. Then they get me on the toilet, so to have that pressure. So I'm on the toilet for like a minute. And then they're like, okay, now we're going to walk you to your bedroom. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I can't walk. So I was literally like this, like wrapped around my husband. He was kind of like walking me to the bedroom. And I bit him. I bit his chest, which I didn't even recall
until he told you, until you saw the bruise.
The next day, I went to hug him, and he like flinched. And I was like, what? And he was like, well, sorry, you bit me really hard. Yeah. So, I mean, it's so wild. So when I was walking to my bedroom, my girlfriend, my doula, Catherine, she said she could see the baby crowning. And so when I got to my bed, I basically pushed once and she came out.
That's incredible.
So, I mean, and that's what's like so beautiful about working with a skilled midwife that can just empower you, because like our bodies know what to do. It's that everything else confuses us and gets us out of what's actually happening. And I mean, still, given all I know, I was still so in my head, because we're just used to it. We're used to running away from pain our entire lives. You have a headache, take something. I mean, literally, that's what the first thing everyone says, right? Here's a Tylenol, here's an Advil. You're in a pain in a relationship, you leave the relationship. It's like we're so geared from such a young age to always walk away from pain. And childbirth is literally walking into the fire of pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people don't even like the word pain. Like, they'll use different words, but to me it's pain. So like, I'm just going to call it pain. Like, that's what it feels like.
Yeah. So engaging you as a postpartum doula or as a coach, does someone need to be in LA to work with you?
No. So, COVID is really interesting for so many reasons, but I had already felt called to step more into the coaching, which I was already doing. But, it's like anything. It's like you do something for so long and you just notice, or at least I know, say for doula work, I didn't just want to work one home at a time, right? Because I can only do a certain amount of that in a year. So as we expand, it's like getting into more education. And I love doing coaching because I can literally work with people all over the world. You know, I had a couple in New Zealand, like middle of nowhere. And they're like, there's literally no one we can go to, you know? And so, yes, they were doing a hospital birth. Yes, they were doing epidural. Yes, they were doing all the more conventional things. But I was able to kind of bring a new light into it too, you know? And that's what really excites me because again, mother the mother, I don't have an agenda. I don't think home birth is for everyone. Certainly not. I mean, in an ideal world, yes, because we've been doing it for thousands of years. But just given all the variables, a lot of women aren't wanting that and aren't ready for that. So I really want to meet each client where they are. So no, I work with people all over the world from wanting to get pregnant. I work with women not even partnered up that are just kind of ready to do their own inner work before conceiving, before going down the path. Because it can also take years depending on what your genetics are, what your health is, what your diet is, what your maybe past drug abuse has been. Like there's a lot of opportunity to clean up before you even get to conception. And then I love working with women and families. I love working with the partners and the dads too of moving through pregnancy and like really fine tuning the postpartum plan. Like, what is this going to look like? And how can we save money? How can we get our finances set up that you really can get the care that you want postpartum? And that's like another huge piece of the education is, especially in LA, right? Where like, it's not uncommon. I have clients that have like $5,000 handbags, $2,000 handbags, and yet, you know, can't wrap their head around a postpartum price for 6 weeks. And it's like, we have to educate on our priorities, right? It's like, and when I talk to the dads too, because sometimes we're all scared of like, you know, spending money, let's say, or like big ticket items. But then when I talk to the dads, after they talk with me, they're like, sign us up. We all need this. We need the nurturing food. Like, I want this for my wife. Of course I do. She's bringing my child forward. Like, it really, once they know why the postpartum is so important, it literally is setting the foundation for your family. So it's not, I think too, is like postpartum now is kind of this trendy term. Postpartum, the postpartum shift, the first 40 days, which I love educating women on and families, is the first 40 days post-birth. But in India, they say the first 40 days informs your next 40 years. So the healing you actually do postpartum is not just for this baby, for your body right now. It's like what's your body gonna be like in menopause. So the more rest you do, you know, we hear these stories like, I jump on a trampoline, I pee myself. I laugh, I pee myself. Well, not every woman needs, that's not normal. We're familiar with it because it's very common, but it's not normal. We need to be resting. No woman should be picking up their toddlers, walking the dog, cooking, cleaning for 6 weeks after birth. And women are doing it the same day. Women are doing it the next day. So a lot of those pelvic health issues aren't even from labor and delivery. They're from not resting. It's from not lying horizontal. So your tissues can actually heal and shrink up and come back up. Like, it's incredible what our bodies do when we give it the space and time and the right foods and the rest. And, you know, not having visitors every day and like really, that's where that self-worth piece comes in. Is a lot of my clients is the first time they're actually putting themselves first because they know how important it is.
And that begins a whole healing journey right there. That's where they're activated into their own healing, as well as the healing that motherhood brings.
Exactly.
Wow, this chat has been so illuminating and exciting. I've really enjoyed it. You're so full of joy for what you do as well.
Wow.
Thank you.
I am. I'm very passionate.
Yeah.
I am, because it really fires me up, because I think we're in a very exciting moment where I think there's so much that's crumbling, and the beauty of that is we actually get to then plug in what we want and what we want our life to be looking like. And it can be as simple as you having, a new mom down the street, just leave food on her doorstep, leave flowers. You have a girlfriend who, isn't going to ask you for help. Just offer to watch their toddler, like there's so many ways that we can all doula each other. And it's not even about money. It's not about having to afford anything. It's serving. It's in service. And when we do that for others, it makes us feel so good. And then we're going to receive that when our time, when we need it.
I hope this episode has inspired you to keep going on what can sometimes be a tough road to inner peace and true happiness. If you want to dive deeper into what we talked about today, go to thehealingcocoon.co for show notes and all things personal growth. And don't forget, if you're loving The Healing Cocoon, then put that love into action and subscribe, rate and review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you download your podcasts. And until next time, my friends, let's rise and shine together.